Have you ever stood at the edge of a place you're not allowed to enter? A fence, a warning sign, a gate locked for decades. There's a strange pull to these places, isn't there? A sense of mystery. We call them forbidden zones, exclusion zones. No matter, they are scars on our planet, born from our greatest mistakes, our deepest conflicts, and our most terrifying accidents. They are places we, humanity, built and then were forced to abandon. We left in a hurry, believing we had rendered them uninhabitable, toxic, and dangerous for centuries to come. We walked away, and in the profound silence we left behind, something extraordinary and wholly unexpected began to happen. Nature, in its quiet, relentless way, began to return, not as a visitor, but as a rightful owner, reclaiming what was always hers. These aren't just stories of decay and ruin. They are powerful, complex stories of resilience, of life's incredible tenacity in the face of our own destructive power. They are accidental experiments on a planetary scale, asking a question we never intended to pose. What happens to the world when we're gone? The answers unfolding within these forbidden borders are more astonishing than we could have ever imagined. They show us forests growing through the floors of factories, rivers cleansing themselves of our poisons, and wildlife thriving in the shadows of our crumbling monuments to progress. This is the story of the earth healing itself, of the wild rushing back in to fill the vacuum we created. Perhaps there is no place on earth that embodies this paradox more dramatically, more famously, than Chernobyl. The name itself is a whisper of catastrophe. For most of us it conjures images of disaster, of invisible poison, of a sarcophagus of concrete and steel entombing a nuclear nightmare. On April 26, 1986, a safety test at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant went catastrophically wrong. The explosion and subsequent fire released a plume of radioactive material that drifted across Europe, a silent, deadly cloud. In the days that followed, the Soviet Union orchestrated a massive evacuation. Over 100,000 people were forced from their homes with only a few hours' notice, told they would be back in a few days. They never returned. An area of 2,600 square kilometers was cordoned off, creating the Chernobyl exclusion zone. The city of Pripyat, a model Soviet city built to house the plant's workers and their families, became a ghost town overnight. Imagine the scene. A city of 50,000 people, frozen in time. Schoolbooks left open on desks, dolls discarded in kindergarten cots, posters for a May Day parade that would never happen, still hanging on walls. The iconic Ferris wheel, which was set to open just days after the disaster, stands as a skeletal monument to a future that was stolen. For years, this was the dominant image of Chernobyl, a testament to human hubris, a radioactive tomb where life could not possibly endure. The initial scientific predictions were grim, painting a picture of a biological desert, a dead zone for centuries. But the story didn't end there. In our absence, the slow, patient work of nature began. Without the constant pressure of humans, no farming, no logging, no hunting, no traffic, no noise zone, underwent a breathtaking transformation. The first thing that returned was the green. Saplings pushed their way through cracks in the concrete plazas of Pripyat. Vines scaled the sides of apartment blocks, creeping in through broken windows. The carefully manicured parks and gardens exploded into a wild, untamable forest. The city is dissolving back into the earth, its sharp, man-made angles softened and blurred by a tide of vegetation. The asphalt roads are becoming mossy trails, and the town squares are now woodland clearings. And with the return of the forest came the animals. This is where the story shifts from a tragedy of the past to a modern ecological wonder. Scientists who cautiously entered the zone in the years following the disaster began to notice something remarkable. The populations of native wildlife weren't just surviving. In many cases, they were thriving. The absence of people was a more powerful force for renewal than the presence of radiation was a force for destruction. Today, the Chernobyl exclusion zone is one of Europe's largest nature preserves. It's a sanctuary, albeit a radioactive one. Listen to the roll call of residents now. Herds of wild boar roam through abandoned villages. Elk and roe deer graze in meadows that were once football pitches. And the predators have returned. The eerie silence of Pripyat is now punctuated by the howl of the wolf. The wolf population inside the zone is estimated to be up to 7 times higher than in surrounding non-contaminated areas. They face no threat from hunters or farmers. The Eurasian lynx, a creature that had been hunted to near extinction in the region, has made a secretive and successful comeback here. Brown bears, not seen in this part of Ukraine for over a century, have been photographed by camera traps, lumbering through the dense woods. In a strange twist of history, a herd of endangered Przewalski's horses, a rare and ancient subspecies of wild horse, was introduced to the zone in the 1990s as an experiment. They have since flourished, forming a healthy, breeding population that gallops freely across the contaminated landscape. Of course, this isn't a simple fairy tale. The radiation is still there, and its effects are complex and still not fully understood. It is a constant, invisible stressor on these animal populations. Some studies have shown higher rates of certain mutations, smaller brain sizes in some bird species, and a reduced insect population in the most contaminated hotspots. It is not a pristine paradise, but it is a paradox. For many species, the risks posed by radiation are proving to be less detrimental than the risks posed by living alongside humans. It's a stark and humbling realization. We are, it seems, a greater threat to the natural world than even our worst nuclear accident. The zone has become a living laboratory, forcing scientists to reevaluate their understanding of how ecosystems respond to chronic radiation and, more importantly, how they respond to our complete and total absence. The story of Chernobyl is no longer just about a disaster. It's about the staggering, defiant power of life to endure and even flourish in the most unlikely of places. But Chernobyl isn't the only place on Earth where our absence has created an accidental paradise, a sanctuary born from human tragedy. The Chernobyl story is one of technological failure. But what happens when a forbidden zone is created not by a single, fiery accident, but by decades of simmering conflict, a political wound that refuses to heal? What happens when a line is drawn on a map, not to contain a poison, but to separate people? This leads us to one of the most paradoxical landscapes on the planet, the Korean Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ. For over 70 years, it has been known as the most heavily fortified border in the world. It is a place defined by tension, a relic of the Cold War where two armies stare each other down across a 4-kilometer-wide strip of land. It is a symbol of division, a scar running 250 kilometers across the Korean peninsula. Imagine it a ribbon of land bristling with barbed wire, riddled with millions of landmines, and monitored by soldiers in watchtowers 24 hours a day. For humans, it is one of the most dangerous places on Earth. But for nature, this corridor of fear has become a corridor of life. In 1953, when the armistice was signed, ending the fighting of the Korean War, this buffer zone was created. The land within it, which had seen some of the most brutal fighting, was once home to villages, rice paddies, and farms. But for the last 7 decades, it has been almost entirely devoid of human development. No cities have been built, no highways paved, no forests cleared for agriculture. The very things that make it so dangerous for people, the fences, the soldiers, the ever-present threat of buried explosives, have acted as the most effective wildlife wardens imaginable. They have protected this land from the single greatest threat to most ecosystems. And so, within this fortress of conflict, an incredible ecological succession has taken place. The abandoned farm fields have reverted to meadows, which in turn have slowly given way to dense, tangled forests. The wetlands and estuaries, which would have been drained and developed in any other part of the peninsula, have remained pristine. This mosaic of habitats, forests, mountains, marshes, and rivers has become a haven for species that have been pushed to the brink of extinction elsewhere in Korea due to habitat loss and industrialization. It is an unintended, unmanaged, and unparalleled nature reserve. The biodiversity within the DMZ is staggering. Scientists, through remote observation and carefully managed surveys, have identified thousands of different species of plants and animals living here. It is home to a thriving population of Asiatic black bears. Rare musk deer and goat-like gorals navigate the steep, forested slopes. In the wetlands, a sight of incredible beauty and profound importance unfolds each year. This zone has become the primary wintering ground for the red-crowned crane, one of the most endangered birds in the world. Thousands of these elegant, majestic birds fly here to rest in the understory. There are haunting calls echoing across the no man's land, a sound of ancient wildness in a place defined by modern conflict. And then there are the whispers, the legends, the tantalizing possibilities. Camera traps have occasionally captured images of the elusive Amur leopard, a creature once thought to be completely gone from South Korea. There is even hope, a fragile but persistent hope, that the DMZ might serve as a corridor for the ultimate apex predator, the Siberian tiger, to one day return to the southern part of the peninsula. Think about that for a moment. The most dangerous border on Earth could be the very place that allows the return of one of the planet's most magnificent and endangered big cats. The irony is almost poetic. A human conflict, frozen in time, has created the perfect conditions for nature to rewind the clock, to bring back a wildness that our progress had erased. But the story of the DMZ, like that of Chernobyl, is fraught with a delicate and uncertain future. The sanctuary exists only because of the conflict. What happens when the conflict ends? The dream of Korean reunification is a powerful and deeply held hope for millions. But for ecologists and conservationists, it is also a source of great anxiety. If peace were to be declared tomorrow, the pressure to develop this prime real estate would be immense. There would be calls for new roads, railways, cities, and factories to reconnect the two cores. The very ribbon of land that has served as a vital arc for so much life could be paved over in a matter of years. Its unique ecosystem lost forever in a rush for peace and prosperity. This is the great paradox of the DMZ. Its value as a natural treasure is inextricably linked to its identity as a political wound. Recognizing this, There is now a growing international movement to have the DMZ designated as a UNESCO reserve or a peace park upon reunification. The idea is to preserve this accidental wilderness, to transform a symbol of war into a lasting monument to peace and nature. It would be a testament to the idea that even from our deepest divisions, something of immense value can grow. The DMZ forces us to ask a difficult question. What is the true price of peace if it means destroying one of the last great wild places in a developed nation? It shows us, in the starkest terms possible, that our human world and the natural world operate on completely different timelines with completely different priorities. Nature doesn't recognize our borders, our ideologies, or our cease. It only recognizes opportunity, and in the space we abandoned, it found one. From the wide, green corridor of the DMZ, a landscape teeming with life precisely because of human division, let's journey to a completely different kind of forbidden zone. This one isn't a sprawling forest or a vast wetland. It's an island, a tiny, man-made fortress of concrete and steel rising from the East China Sea. It's a place so dense, so fortified, so utterly artificial, that from a distance it looks like a battleship steaming through the waves. That's its nickname, Gunkanjima, or Battleship Island. Its official name is Hashima, and its story is not one of nuclear fallout or military standoff, but of industrial might and spectacular economic collapse. It represents another way that forbidden zones are born, when the resource that fuels a place simply runs out, and the human machinery grinds to a sudden, permanent halt. For nearly a century, Hashima was a symbol of Japan's rapid industrialization. It sits atop a massive undersea coal deposit, and in 1887, the Mitsubishi Corporation bought the island and began one of the most ambitious mining projects in history. They built a city on this rock, which is only about 16 acres in size. And what a city it was! To protect it from the brutal typhoons that sweep the region, they encased the entire island in a towering concrete seawall. Inside, they constructed a labyrinth of high-rise apartment blocks, some of the first of their kind in Japan. They built schools, a hospital, shops, a cinema, a public bath, and even a Shinto shrine. It was a completely self-contained world. At its peak in the late 1950s, over 5,000 people lived on this tiny speck of land, making it, for a time, the most densely populated place in the history of the planet. Imagine the intensity of that life. A vertical city humming with activity, 24 hours a day. The constant noise of the mine, the chatter of families in the cramped courtyards, the sounds of children playing on the rooftops. Because there was no other open space, the men would descend into treacherous undersea tunnels, mining coal from beneath the ocean floor, while their families lived in the concrete towers above. It was a hard, dangerous life, but it was also a tightly knit community, a testament to human resilience and engineering in the pursuit of energy. Then, the world changed. In the 1960s, petroleum began to replace coal as Japan's primary energy source. The demand for Hashima's Koplume, the mine, once the island's entire reason for being, was no longer profitable. The decision was made to close it, and the exodus was swift, almost clinical. In January of 1974, Mitsubishi announced the closure. By April, just 3 months later, the island was completely empty. The last boat left, and a city that had teemed with thousands of people fell utterly silent. The residents left everything behind, believing, perhaps, that they might one day retrieve their belongings. They left televisions in their living rooms, newspapers on their tables, and bicycles leaning against the walls, but no one ever came back. The government declared the island unsafe, and for over 30 years, it was completely forbidden to set foot there. In that silence, nature, in its own unique way, began its patient work of reclamation. Unlike Chernobyl or the DMZ, Hashima is not a place for large mammals to roam. There are no forests for bears or deer. Here the return of nature is a more elemental, more subtle, but no less powerful story. It's a story of entropy. The first and most relentless force is the sea itself. The salt spray, carried on the typhoon winds, is a corrosive agent, constantly eating away at the reinforced concrete. It rusts the steel skeletons of the buildings from the inside out. The waves crash against the seawall, the same walls built to defy them, slowly but surely finding weaknesses, exploiting cracks, and pulling the island's foundations back into the ocean. Then there is the green, not a lush forest, but a tenacious, stubborn green. Ivy snakes its way up the sides of the apartment blocks, its tendrils creeping through broken windows, creating eerie green waterfalls down the concrete facades. Weeds and hardy grasses, their seeds carried by the wind and birds, have pushed their way through every conceivable crack in the pavement, creating patches of wild meadow on rooftops and in what were once bustling alleyways. Small gnarled trees have taken root on balconies, their roots slowly prying apart the concrete that was once someone's floor. It's an incredible display of life's ability to find purchase in the most inhospitable environments. To walk through Hashima today, now that limited tours are permitted, is to walk through a ghost of the industrial age. You can peer into an apartment and see a black and white television set from the early 70s, now covered in a thick layer of dust and grime. A child's shoe lies in the rubble of a collapsed hallway. A telephone with its receiver off the hook sits silently on a desk, as if its owner was interrupted mid. These objects, these frozen moments in time, make the human absence feel incredibly present and profound. They are modern ruins, a Pompeii of the 20th century, preserved not by volcanic ash, but by sudden abandonment and decades of neglect. Hashima is more than just a ghost town. It's a powerful warning. It shows us how quickly and completely our world can crumble when the economic systems that support it fail. While Chernobyl is a monument to our hubris with technology, Hashima is a monument to the impermanence of our reliance on finite resources. It stands as a stark reminder that even our most impressive concrete jungles, our towering achievements of engineering, are fragile ecosystems in their own right. And when we walk away, nature will always be there to dismantle them, to break them down, and to patiently, relentlessly turn them back into dust. These stories of Chernobyl, the DMZ, and Hashima Island are all echoes of the same profound truth. They are born from vastly different circumstances. A nuclear apocalypse, a geopolitical stalemate, yet they all lead to the same astonishing outcome. They demonstrate that our world, the world we have built with so much effort and ingenuity, is profoundly fragile. Our control is an illusion, our permanence a myth. We see ourselves as masters of this planet, capable of shaping it to our will. But these forbidden zones reveal that we are merely tenants, and our lease is far more temporary than we imagine. The moment we turn our backs, the moment our ceaseless activity stops, the landlord begins to renovate. Nature, the true owner of this world, begins the slow, inexorable process of moving back in. This process of reclamation isn't just about the photogenic return of wolves and bears. It's a much deeper, more fundamental force. It starts with the smallest of things, the pioneers of the natural world. It begins with a single spore of lichen landing on a concrete wall, releasing tiny amounts of acid that begin to etch the surface, creating a foothold. It's the moss that grows in the shaded cracks of a sidewalk, trapping moisture and dust, slowly, particle by particle, creating the first whisper of soil. It's the dandelion, that stubborn weed we despise in our lawns, using its powerful taproot to pry apart asphalt. These are nature's frontline soldiers, the humble organisms that begin the deconstruction of our world and pave the way for everything that follows. They are the unsung heroes of these forbidden landscapes, doing the quiet, essential work of turning our ruins back into earth. Water, too, becomes a powerful agent of change. Without us to manage it, to channel it through pipes and drains, it rediscovers its old pathways. Rivers, once straightened and contained, begin to meander again, creating new wetlands. Rainwater, instead of being whisked away, pools and seeps, freezing and thawing, cracking foundations and weakening structures from within. The very element that is the basis for all life becomes the ultimate tool of demolition for the lifeless things we leave behind. The world we build is a constant battle against this entropy. And in these zones, we see what happens when we surrender. Nature doesn't need to fight a war. It simply needs to wait. Perhaps we don't need to look to these extreme, isolated examples to understand this phenomenon. In a way, the entire world got a brief, fleeting glimpse into the power of our absence just a few years ago. Remember the early days of the global pandemic, the anthropause, as scientists called it, the great human pause. As cities fell silent and highways emptied, we saw it happen. The smog cleared over Los Angeles and New Delhi, revealing mountains that hadn't been seen for decades. The waters in the canals of Venice, without the churn of tourist boats, ran clear. In city centers around the globe, wildlife grew bolder. Coyotes were seen trotting through downtown Chicago, wild boar wandered the streets of Barcelona, and mountain goats took over a town in Wales. For a few short weeks, the volume of humanity was turned down, and the background music of the natural world became audible once more. That global experience was a microcosm of what has been happening in the forbidden zones for decades. It proved a principle on a planetary scale. The pressure we exert on the natural world is constant, immense, and multifaceted. It's not just the land we pave over or the forests we cut down, it's our noise, our light, our movement, our very presence. And when that pressure is even slightly released, life rushes back in to fill the space. It's a testament to the incredible resilience of the ecosystems we share this planet with. So, what are we to make of these strange, paradoxical places? Are they just melancholy ruins, reminders of our failures, or are they something more? I believe they are profoundly hopeful. They are not arguments for human extinction, but rather powerful lessons in coexistence. They show us what nature is capable of if we just give it a chance, if we just give it a little space. They are living blueprints for rewilding, proving that ecosystems can and will heal if the stresses are removed. They challenge us to think differently about our own landscapes, to see the potential for life in the abandoned lot, the forgotten railway line, the urban park. These forbidden zones are ultimately a mirror. They reflect back at us the immense impact we have on the planet, but they also reflect the Earth's immense capacity for forgiveness and renewal. They show us that destruction is not always the end of the story. From the radioactive heart of a nuclear disaster, a thriving forest can grow. Across the world's most dangerous border, endangered cranes can find sanctuary. And on a concrete island fortress, abandoned to the sea, life can find a way to claw itself back. What do you think about these accidental wildernesses? Is it a beautiful story of nature's resilience, or a sad reminder of human failure? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and we'd love to hear your perspective. Or if you've ever seen a small example of nature reclaiming a place near you. And if you found this journey into the world's forbidden zone stop, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to our channel for more stories about our incredible, complex, and ever-changing planet. In the end, these places teach us a vital lesson in humility. They remind us that we are part of nature, not apart from it, and that even after our proudest achievements have crumbled to dust, life, in its beautiful, tenacious, and unstoppable way, will endure. Thank you for watching.